just wanted to welcome Dianne Peterson. She has a book for us, and it's a children's book today. So I'm going to let you start. Could you just kind of describe yourself as a writer and let us know a little bit about you?
I'm a dental hygienist. I'm a mother of two, and then I have a stepdaughter and a son-in-law. Mm-hmm. And I work 2 or 3 days in the dental office. I also have another career as a forensic document examiner, where I look at question signatures to determine if they're genuine or not. And wow. I go to church, and my kids are in college, and I'm a very busy lady, I guess. But I like it that way, so I keep it that way.
It sounds like it. And you're now a successfully published author, so that's a big star on top there.
Yeah, this book was just a vision that I had to help children come to the dental office in a positive and fun way, and help parents as well learn how to parent during the dental experience.
Oh, okay. That's great. And so children is an interest in dental hygienists. Can you tell us a little bit from a writer's perspective of where you meet with other children authors, or where you meet other authors, your interests, your groups, where you connect during this journey?
Right. Well, this was not something that I'd always wanted to do. It's just something that come into my vision that I wanted to make happen. Mm-hmm. And so when I thought of this process, I started researching and Googling, as people do on the internet, and I went to seminars, and I found this lady. Her name is Renee Bobb, and she is the book publishing lady. And I went to she has been my empowerment coach the entire way. She's been fantastic. And I found her through in Nashville through the Lifeways Women's Pathways and Lifeways Center.
Okay, excellent, excellent. So why was it important for you to publish this book? It was your vision. What was your motivation out there? What was your ultimate goal or end result with this book?
My end goal or result was, I want to have kids to be knowledgeable and happy and have a good time coming to the dentist. I know people's like, good time and dentist, can that go together? It absolutely can, and it does every day. Mm-hmm. And I just want to duplicate that process for children everywhere. So that's the reason I created the book. And I had the vision to animate for the dental tools, to not make them so scary, and on the child's level, because it is a sort of a strange environment for children.
Well, for everyone.
Yes, for everyone. And that's the thing too. Parents don't know how to explain the visit either. And so this book really, really explains that whole process in a simplified way that can make it fun.
That's great. That's great. So you found some help with your mentor there. And what other information did you need to become a published author?
Tons. It was a lot. It was more than I ever expected, but wow. I like the challenge. I do enjoy challenges.
What kind of groups or tools or websites or books would you recommend to help other authors out there, in addition to your mentor there?
Well, she does have a website. And so she's a book publishing lady.com. And so the other tools were, of course, professional editing. I found out about your services before I met Renee, and she was, I knew I needed some editing. I knew I did not want this to go into the hands of every person out there without having this editing done. And so that was a key for me, because I want to look and be as professional. And when someone picks up the book, they know it's done, not in an amateur way. And there's a lot to that process in making that book look and be that professional level. That doesn't just happen. That's a lot of brain work. It's a lot of education. I went to many websites of how to lay out the book, book templates. And then how many pages is a children's book? Then you had to look into the publishing process of, well, it can't be too long. They're going to charge you more to print it. Or, if you want to go down that road. And so I found out that 32 pages was the traditional children's book. And then you have to decide the size that you want your book to be. And then the size can go into how much that's going to cost you too to print it. And then, you know, the appearance that you want it to have. I wanted mine to be a 9x9 square because I thought that was the cutest. I didn't like it when books open up and they sort of flop over and they're heavy as you turn the pages. You have to think about things like that. And then in this children's book, I did a paperback and a hardcover.
Okay.
And it's so thin that on the paperback, I can't have a spine and detail what the name is, what the title is on the book. So on the hardcover, I could do that. And surprisingly, right now, my hardcovers have sold more readily than the paperback. People want the hardcover, and I was impressed with that issue because it is a little bit higher to produce, and so that I found that interesting. And one of the most interesting things for me right now is that grandmothers are the people that are buying the book.
Smart.
It's not the younger group; they're buying it for their grandchildren. So that's like my strongest demographic right now.
Interesting. That's very fun. You just never know until you put it out there and you test, and that's great. And are you selling it to the dental offices, I would guess, too?
Yes, I am. It is for sale in my personal dental office. And then yesterday I went to a pediatric office, and they bought a couple of copies. And I'm just beginning to really to push it out there in the dental field. I just I wanted to get that feel back from the Moore market, and then you know I've got to go further. I've sold about 300. I'd say about 300 book copies right now.
Oh, congratulations! That's great. It's just fantastic to get it started. See where it's going to go. So let's see here. You mentioned why you chose professional editing services. How did that fit personally into your publishing? Did it just fit straight along? Did you have other tools that you were following after that?
It was all a discovery. You know, the editing had to be done before you do the illustrations of a children's book.
Yeah.
And the lady that mentored me children's books wasn't her specific genre. You know, it was more other like business books and stuff like that. So I had more challenges because I didn't have that coaching for this. So I had to go and research a whole lot about this whole process of a children's book and what sells and what doesn't sell and what people like and how it templates out. But you have to get that editing done before you do those illustrations, because that can you'll be going back and forth, and you don't want your illustrator really upset with you.
What was your biggest roadblocks in becoming an author, becoming published author?
Well, because this was my first time, the biggest roadblock was the education process for me. Okay. The writing, I wrote, and I tore up many manuscripts, and I got very frustrated. And I tore it up one time, and I told my coach, I'm like, I don't know if I can do this anymore. And she's like, you're okay. That's part of the process. And I'm like, well, okay, I must be normal then. And I went back. I went back for it. I was like, I've come too far to turn back now. I have too many people invested. I had the illustrator invested, you know, to do the project with me. She was excited to do it. It was her first book that she'd ever done. And I just went too far. And I'm so glad that I finished.
Yes.
I'm so glad it's complete. It does feel really good to have it complete. And I do look forward to doing more.
Oh, that's great. That's fantastic. So you've published now and you've got the success. Were there any costs along the way that you incurred, and how can you help other authors avoid some of the unnecessary costs, perhaps?
there again, that education piece, knowing the right decisions to make, and you don't always know the right decisions to make in this process. I think you're going to make some poor ones at times, but you can just keep learning from those and keep going forward. When I went to, I'm a self-published author, and when you go and research self-publishers, you'll find like many different companies that will help you do the layout of the book. They'll do the book cover, and not, all those services I'm sure are wonderful, but I didn't need all those services, so I didn't want to pay for them. And I didn't want to pay $5,000 or $6,000 or $7,000 and get about 20 copies of my book, or 100 or something. It's something like that. And then they only promote you for maybe a year, and then that's it. And so I just didn't want to go down that road. And so I had my illustrator, and we had the book cover, and we didn't take, that was just all our doing as far as illustrations and the way the book looks. And I feel like I do have like some design in me, and she did too. So I felt like we came out with a good product without having services like that. So I wanted a book printer, and a book printer is a lot different than the book publisher. And so I didn't know that at the beginning, because I'm actually the publisher, and I found a printer to do my books. And I will talk about that company if you don't mind. It's called Jaffe Book Solutions. And I can print as small as 25 books. And I checked overseas publishing and compared them to them, and they're in America. I can put published in America in my book, and I'm proud to do that. And the cost is effective, and they're about a 4 to 6 week lead time. So I thought it was a great solution for my interest and what I wanted to produce. And the quality is top notch. I did not want a cheap looking book. And I've not got a cheap looking book. I've got a really nice looking book. People look at it and they think Tooth Fairy Express is some big publisher, and it's me.
That's great. I love the name. That's a great name.
Thank you.
So how did you manage your time? I mean, you mentioned that you're very busy, and writing a book takes time and it takes commitment. How did you do it, and how did you avoid the time wasters, and how did you save time? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, time is always of the essence, and that's the one thing that we have that we're not going to get back each and every day. So I'll just say this: if you're passionate about something, you're going to have the time for it. You're going to make the time. We all have the same amount of time. It's the passion that drives what you do with prioritizing that time. And for me, this was a true passion. And I do feel like this whole process was a God thing. I felt like He gave me the vision, and I promised to glorify Him throughout this process. And that's the reason I feel like I've gotten this far, actually, because I'm not anybody known or anything like that. I didn't have the knowledge in me to do this. I just had the desire and the passion, and I wanted it to happen. And I just started devoting myself to it. Those extra pockets of time, they were filled with writing, this process of researching and creating this. And I'll tell you, at the beginning, I was very presumptuous. I thought that 500 to 700 words would be a piece of cake. Lo and behold, it was not. It was very challenging to write for kids so that they understand what we want them to understand in their way, in those kid terms, I guess, so to speak. So, you know, you have to keep going forward, because if you stop, it stops. It's your project. Nobody else can do this for you. No one else can make this happen for you. If you want it to happen, you have to make it happen. So,
Right.
I don't know if that's my attitude about it, I guess.
That's great. I mean, everybody has a different motivation and a different energy, and yours is coming from God, and that's great. And so it's just however you manage it. Some people are very strict, their time and their space, and then there's those of us who are just so busy with so many things that we're just trying to grab a little here, there, and we're doing our best with that. I think I fall more into that category. I like to think I'm strict, but I'm not.
I'm what in my mind I'd like to be, but in reality I'm not. I spin a lot of plates, but I find that is a gift too. I like doing that. I think with creative people, that's what we need. We're not that strict, regimented type all the time. We have to have that outlet of spontaneity. When the creativity comes, you need to answer that call, because that window of time can close and it may not come back till a different point in time. And you got to seize that opportunity. You can't wait. It chooses the time. You don't necessarily choose the time. It's the way I see this process.
Right. That's right. So, what frustrations did you encounter? Things you wish you'd done differently or just avoided entirely?
Well, I'm an author, but the lady that illustrated it is a wonderful lady. But creative people, they're again just they don't always have timelines, and so that was a little bit of a frustration. But that's the way it happens. And she works full time, and very busy lady too. And so if you write for a living, maybe, and that's all you do, you don't have as many challenges as if you're doing other things in your life that you're committed to, having to provide for your family and such as that with regular jobs, I guess. I'm not saying it's not a regular job, but if it's not your only profession. So that was a little frustrating. Make sure, this is the one thing I would recommend or my advice to anyone out there. I'm sort of a quick start, and I want to get things going. And actually, I thought I was going to be done with the book before it was done. And so I had 2 or 3 deadlines that were not met. And I actually thought on the last deadline it would be done. And I sort of did like an email blast and done some marketing. And I didn't have the product. Before you market, yes, which it wasn't that bad. It went okay. It wasn't nothing. But for anyone out there, before you market your book, make sure you have that file sent and that it's going to be printed and there's no corrections that need to be done.
Right.
Because that's what can sort of, there's a lot of little details in a little book that needs to be just honed in on before it's done, before it's complete. I would have someone to check it off, and you look at it, have someone else look at it, professional editing to look at it. You want those, you want all the feedback that you get feedback, accept feedback, good and bad, the good, bad, and the ugly, and the wonderful. Take it all in, learn from each part of it, because there is something to learn to be said from all of it.
Right. It's a lot there. So, how did you feel? What were your feelings at the beginning of this journey? And what were your emotions that you were experiencing?
I was on an emotional high. I was so excited. It was just, it was a high of emotion. And to be honest with you, there's a low of emotion that comes before it's all done too. It's sort of like a little roller coaster that I was on. I was up, I was down. I was up, I was down. But it's a wonderful process. I mean, if
Mhm.
someone's got the desire and the passion for it, you should go for it. Why not?
No, exactly. And what fears did you have to overcome to achieve your success?
Well, the biggest fear, to be honest
Mhm.
with you, to overcome, your company helped me out with that professional
Okay.
editing. Um, I knew if I went to even, I guess, family members that were
Mhm.
educated in education and grammar and all that stuff, you still don't get that truest feedback that's needed.
Yeah.
And I wanted to know from a third party, is this good or is this not good? What needs to be changed? What needs to be better? And that your company and the services that I receive from professional editing uh, really made one of those fears completely go away,
Great.
because I knew when it come back, I'm set. Like this is good. Like it was just this is the final. I put final editing. I went through the process 2 or 3 times. Or I don't know, more than that. It wasn't a once and done for me. But when that come back as final,
No.
that was a great fear that was squashed. So,
Yeah. Yeah. That's very, very well put. There's a lot of fear there with honesty and creative criticism, constructive criticism that can be helpful. So, what are your final words of advice for other writers out there, especially children book writers?
just keep going forward. Um, keep if you stop, your book stops. It's all on you, and that's a great thing. And sometimes you might feel like it's a sad thing, but there's kids out there, they need this education. The parents want this education, or maybe it's just fun. And maybe your book isn't as defined in a profession or whatnot, but kids need to learn. Kids want to read. uh, they need to read. It's a great thing to educate another generation,
That's very true. It's very true.
or to help with
And if
that.
they, exactly. And if somebody was overcoming any emotional barriers or fears, anything you want to say to them so they can become successfully published like you?
um, I think we are our biggest obstacle is ourselves. uh,
Mm.
we get in front of ourselves, and usually we're the ones that beat ourselves up more than anybody else. And you need to believe in yourself, believe in your message that you want to convey, and you need to find a coach. I would really strongly encourage anyone to find someone out there to help you in this process. That when you
Yeah.
don't believe in you need to believe in yourself, but sometimes you won't, and you need to find that person that can help you along with that. This whole process really makes me just realize the power of a team, and it is like a little personal team when you write a book. It's
Mm.
especially a children's book, because you've got the illustrations, and you've got to sync with the illustrator. You've got to have editing done, professional
Mm.
editing, and or first editing, and you've got to. It's just all got to come together.
Yeah, it does. And it does. And it did. So congratulations. That was fantastic. Well, thank you for sharing all this with our listeners out there and letting us kind of join you on your little bit of a journey out there in the world. We'll be waiting for your next book from the
Okay.
Tooth Fairy Publishers. Tooth Fairy Express, did you say?
Yes, Tooth Fairy
Awesome.
Express. That's the
That's
name of
cute.
my website.
Oh,
So
very nice. So people can go visit it there. And just thank you for doing this.
thank you.